All right, so you want me to start with something like a card trick?
Sure, why not?
Let's do it. I get asked these things all the time. So normal deck of playing cards. These are of course the fancy ones, obviously. But you can see it's a normal deck of cards. And I think if the queen makes like a 0 right there.
Okay.
And then the 4 and 1 make for a 5.
There you go.
5, 0, 5.
Okay, perfect. That's a fun trick.
That is a fun one.
Yeah. So how did you get into, I guess, do we call you the magician? Do we call you an illusionist? A mentalist? What do we call you?
It depends. I go by many different titles, depending on what the venue is. If I need to be a mentalist or a mind reader, I'll do that. If I need to do like kids' birthday parties, I'm more the magician. If I'm for corporate events, I like to go like prestidigitators or conjurers or things like that. It really depends on what the venue is. Currently, I do a magic show over at Old Tucson. And for that one, I do a lot of stage magic, sort of stage illusions, and it's definitely a lot of tongue-in-cheek, a lot of just, having fun with the audience. But for the most part, I just kind of go with the straight baseline of entertainment, or entertainer.
And for people who aren't in Tucson from Tucson, what is Old Tucson?
So Old Tucson, many people believe, and still get this all the time, many people believe that Old Tucson is actually the older version of Tucson. It's not. It was actually a film set created specifically for the film Arizona. And that was the first film that was filmed out at Old Tucson Studios. And since then, they've been able to film a lot of different famous westerns out there, such as Young Guns, Wild Wild West, most recently Among Wolves with Trace Atkins. And it has since evolved from being just a movie set into now it's not only a movie set, but it's also kind of a theme park, kind of an old Wild West town, akin to like if you were to go to say like Tombstone, or it's Wild West Disney World is basically what it's like.
Awesome. And they did Three Amigos there, right?
Yes, they did film Three Amigos there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really fun.
It is a fun place.
And I brought my husband one time and we played a little joke on him.
We did. I'll let you tell about that.
Okay, so yeah, my husband and I went to Old Tucson. I knew that Benny was going to be there working. This is Benny James, by the way, or Benny James White, as you're also known. And I fed Benny a little bit of information about my husband before the event. So we attended one of your magic shows. And tell us a little bit how those shows go. Yeah,
so there's a part in the show that I will usually do, and it's most often it's a comedy bit where I have a big pad, a piece of paper, and I look at a spectator in the audience and I say, okay, I want you to think about your favorite song. Could be any song in the world, just think about it right now. And then I'm going to write down your response. So I write down something on the pad, and then I look at the person and I say, okay, we didn't prep anything. They say no. I say, true, yes or no, is the song you're thinking of Highway to Hell by AC/DC? 9 times out of 10, they'll say no, at which point I turn the piece of paper around, having cleverly written the response, it says the word no on it. And that's pretty much the end of the trick. But by you contacting me earlier, I was able to pick him out and not only do the no trick, but I was also able to literally read his mind and tell certain information so that by the end, he had a funny response to the whole end of the show. What was it again?
So I will get there, but basically what happened was, I gave you his name, Bill, so you guessed that, and he's kind of like, grumbling like, okay, that's a pretty common men's name. And then you said, and I think you're from South Dakota, no, North Dakota. And he was like, yeah, I'm from North Dakota. And a few other things like that, like I had given you that information. So he's like, okay, yeah, the show ends, and then we're walking around and just enjoying the theme park and like going on stagecoach rides and stuff. And the whole day he's kind of muttering to himself, like, I think they must have looked at my ID when we checked in. I'm like, no, I bought the tickets, like you didn't take your ID out. And he's like, well then they must have followed us out to the parking lot and seen that I had North Dakota plates on my van. And I'm like, maybe they watched everyone who's coming in and then like followed us all day, and if we happen to go in the magic show, like all these little things, like he's trying to come up all day with like how you knew that stuff. And I forget what else you said about him that was accurate. And then I let it go the whole day. We went to a party with friends. I told the host what happened, like, but didn't tell Bill. And he was like, oh my God, you're the worst. And then we're in the car the next day. And I was like, don't you think Benny did a great job? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, my friend Benny, my dance instructor. And he's like, okay. I'm like, the magician at the show. And he's like, I knew he wasn't psychic. But it was really bothering him, like, how did he know all this information?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was amazing.
I had a similar thing that happened in one of the shows that we did at Old Tucson. It was for the Nightfall season. We did a mentalist show where I came out as a mind reader, and I would basically read people's minds and then transfer that gift of sight to a spectator so that they could then read minds, and the whole thing ended with a fireball. It was a really fun show. But every time during the show, there was a point where I would just do what's known in the biz as stock readings, where I basically look at the one side of the audience and I'd be like, I sense someone over here is having issues with the family. Don't worry, we'll all come together in the end, you know, the basic things like that. And then on the end, I always did this joke. And what was so funny about this joke is that it had a pretty high hit rate, but the joke was I would simply come over here to this side of the audience and I'd say, and I'd look out in the audience and I'd say, and your boss hates you, but you're self-employed, so that's awkward. And then I move right along. But I had, I think, 5 different separate occasions during the run of that show, I had people come up to me and say, how did you know? You looked me right in the eye and you knew I was self-employed. How did you know that? And I'll be honest, it was a law of averages thing. It was at that time where everybody was kind of starting the self-employment route. So, I mean, the hit rate is pretty high out there. And I just kind of naturally looked in the audience and people assumed, because I was looking in the general area, that it was them. But it was hilarious, the amount of responses that I got with like that. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. So what else do you do at Old Tucson?
So I currently I help with creating a lot of the shows that they have out here. I work now as a cast specialist. And basically it gives me a chance to work as a director, also a show creator. So I work primarily with creating the magic shows and kind of structuring out how the different routines and effects will go throughout the show. But I also come in as an assistant director to help with any of the other shows, i.e. the musicals or sometimes the stunt shows. They ask for advice for different effects. And the most recent one that I helped to create was the magic show for Yuletide, which was really fun. It was a bit of a shock to the system out there for the people working there, because they were assuming that I was going to have like this fully written out script, and I came up with the idea of I wanted to create a magic show that was universal. Something that had no dialogue, had no script. It had routines and it had structure, so we always followed that same routine and structure. So in a sense it had a script, but no like written dialogue for it. And when we first pitched the idea to people, they were like, wait, so there's no dialogue? I'm like, no. I'm like, at all? I'm like, no, not a single bit. It ended up being, by and large, one of the most popular shows that we had for all of Yuletide season. Awesome. People loved it because it didn't matter what language you spoke, the message and the kind of plot and the effects were completely universal, that everybody understood what was going on with it. And it was a really fun show to do.
I bet. And you're also working on a project in Colorado that's another holiday project.
Yes, so this is one, I am able to talk about this. I can't go into full details on it, but I am able to talk about it since now they've made the official announcement. The parent company that owns Old Tucson is a railway company, and they help to put on the Polar Express experience shows on a moving train. And what they're currently working to do now is they're currently working to create a Harry Potter Hogwarts Express experience.
That's so cool.
On a moving train, and it is nuts, but in all the awesome and right ways. It is so much fun to work on this project.
That's amazing. When does it open?
I believe the soft launch, and this may change, so don't quote me on this one. The soft launch, they're looking to target hopefully sometime in August, September, and I believe that the first place that they're going to launch this is actually going to be in St. Louis.
Great.
So, yeah. So
That's
definitely
so
keep your
exciting.
calendars marked for later this year. We got some fun
People
Harry
with
Potter
Harry
stuff.
Potter loving kids.
Yeah, lots. Oh yeah, whether you're kids or adults, it's a fun experience that I think any Potterhead will absolutely love.
For sure. And are they already advertising it?
They just released a kind of a teaser trailer
Okay.
to announce that it is happening.
Okay.
So
How would you find that if people are looking that up?
I believe if you just look up Hogwarts Express experience, you should be able to track that down. Also, be sure to go to the website American Heritage Railways Company. Go to their website, and they should have some information for it as well. Again, we're still in the process of creating it, but we're starting to generate, kind of that excitement, kind of that buzz for it. So,
That sounds really cool.
yeah.
I also told you I think it would be awesome if they did like an Orient Express type murder mystery
Yes.
on a train, which would be more of an adult thing,
Oh yeah,
obviously. But
definitely. But there've even been talks, and I don't know if they'll do them at Old Tucson necessarily. Hope they do at some point. But there've been talks of doing murder mysteries in the desert
That
out
would be
at
cool.
Old Tucson. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that would be really fun.
hopefully we'll see. We'll see. A lot of fun projects.
There you go. Okay, so you wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
You also have a TikTok channel with your family. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the TikTok channel, this came about quite by accident. I was talking with my wife one day, and I have what I describe to people as comedy Tourette's, which is where I have a funny thought and I just blurt it out and I see if the joke lands. If it does, great, it goes in my repertoire. If it doesn't, moving on. So I thought of this funny thing randomly, and I said to my wife, I said, hey, I think I know how to piss off all the nerds at once. She was like, what? And I did this thing where I combined a whole bunch of catchphrases from different genres, like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Star Wars, all rolled into one sentence. And I said it while I was holding a lightsaber, a toy lightsaber, by the blade, not by the handle. And the exact quote I did for that was, set phasers to stun Mr. Frodo, let's take back the Chamber of Secrets, Excelsior, and I ran off, with this lightsaber. And she looked at me and she said, can I film that? So she did. She posted, and I thought, yeah, it's just fun. We just had the TikTok channel for, just our own personal enjoyment. And then she came back to me 2 days later and said, honey, it blew up. I'm like, what did?
Your first post.
And she's like, this post right here. Wait, what? She's like, yeah, it's got like 1 million hits on it. I'm like, what? And we looked through the comments, a lot of people were requesting, can you do this, and all this stuff, like other fandoms and stuff. So I don't remember what number we're on. We're like at part 130 something with just that. But we've expanded to do all sorts of things. If you've ever seen Coffee Elmo, which is the guy walking around with a cup of coffee going, like that type of voice, that's me. If you want to follow us, we're That Geek Family on all platforms. But our big following is at TikTok. We just recently passed the 200,000 mark.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and just all from very random, dumb videos.
Right. So how do you feel the TikTok ban is going to go?
It's been interesting. We were kind of watching it as it came up. And then when it shut down for, those, I think it was like 14 hours or so, whatever it was. And honestly, there were a lot of creators who were, of course, up in arms, as well I feel they should be, because it is a great platform. It's a great platform for businesses to build clientele. I mean, we were able to get some amazing opportunities through TikTok. But the thing I also know is that one of the things that I grew up with a lot of was kind of that sense of resourcefulness. Mm-hmm. So if one venue shuts down, it's okay, you've had multiple lines in the water, you just keep going with those other venues as well. So ironically, even though we are huge on TikTok, comparatively to all of our other social medias, we've actually made more profit off of our other social media platforms than off of TikTok.
Okay, like off of Instagram?
Yeah, we've gotten some really wonderful brand deals. In fact, we're talking with another one of our brand deals that we've done in the past, and they're looking to possibly do something with us once a month. And we get a kickback for those types of opportunities. And also it was cool because with our TikTok influence, we were able to work directly with the TCC, which is the Tucson Convention Center, and be able to be a part of some of their events. They invited us to come out when the Cirque du Soleil Crystal Show was showing here in Tucson. They invited us to come out. before the show, go backstage, talk with the actors, shoot a whole video with them, and then write about and post about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, it was fun. We basically got like backstage passes to, you know, this whole circus event. So.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about joining the circus?
Oh gosh, so funny story. You hear me say that a lot because just about everything has a story to go with it. Actually, the reason I got into magic was because of the circus. I was in a small town local circus. This was when I lived in Colorado, and the circus was based out of Manitou Springs, and I had a chance to work with that circus as a circus clown for about 2 years. And during my time there, I learned how to do busking. For people who don't know, busking is basically street performing, or performing for tips. But they had a great program in Manitou Springs where they worked with local businesses. So you could be sort of sponsored by one of the local businesses, and they would pay you. At that time, it was it was pretty low wages, but for what it was really great, like learning. But they pay you like maybe $60 for the day to come out and entertain in front of their shop front. And I considered a good day to be able to double my earnings, in tips. And I found that working as a clown, I learned juggling. I was kind of basic at it, but I had fun with it. And I learned to my chagrin that everybody in Manitou Springs, Colorado, and their grandmother was a better juggler than I was. So I had that working against me, but I had this one gentleman walk up to me and he saw my juggling bag. He said, "Well, that's great, what else do you do?" And I happened to have a deck of cards on me, and I remembered this one silly trick from when I was a kid, like really young.
Let's see it.
You want to see it? Okay,
Yeah.
I will show you the very trick. So this is the very trick that I would do. So just go ahead, pick any card you like, enter it all. Okay, and you can go ahead and show it to the camera. It's okay if you show it to me. I've seen this trick 100 times before. Okay, you got the cards memorized?
Yep.
All right, both sides? After that, it's a union policy.
Okay.
We're going to put it right back in the center, okay?
Okay.
Now this is the tricky part for me. I'm going to try to see if I can find your card in a unique way. Okay. Like that. And I think, just like that, we were able to get all the cards in one direction except for one card. And all of those. What was your card again?
The 9 of diamonds? Hearts.
No, you were right the first time. 9 of diamonds. That's it right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was
that's what it is.
that was the trick. That was the one, and I showed him that trick, and he was so impressed that he dropped a $20 bill right in my tip jar.
Oh, wow.
And from that moment, I realized there's something here. So this was right around the time that David Blaine, Chris Angel were really hitting like their height of glory, and street magic was all the rage. So I decided, well, I don't have the money to afford a big stage and big grand illusions like Copperfield, but if I can learn how to do street magic, I can make better tips doing busking. And so that started the 20-year journey of being a street magician. And that's so basically to answer your question, would I ever join the circus? There were a couple times I debated running away to join traveling circuses. I love everything about the circus. There's a very near and dear place in my heart for it. The 2 years I spent with the Manitou Circus was incredible. Any chance I get to do circus performance or circus-like performances, I'm 100% there for it.
That's awesome. And you and I are also a big fan of the show, The Mentalist.
Yes.
That wrapped a few years ago.
Yes.
We both rewatched it, I think, this past year.
Yep.
And you, so for people who haven't seen The Mentalist, it's a guy who was raised kind of in a traveling circus to be like a psychic or mind reader, but just really like reading people and their body language and context clues. And then he comes to work with the police department in California and help them solve cases. And you have also worked with the police department a little bit.
A little bit in the past. I've had a chance to do performances for police offices. I did a drag performance for one. We won't go into that one. But I have had a chance to work with different officers, and some of the magic and effects that I do, I have had police personnel look at me and say, "You would be incredible doing this type of stuff for real," because you're able to read people's body language. But one of the people that I worked with a lot, who is an actual acting coach now, she's incredible. Her previous job was that of basically like what Patrick Jane in The Mentalist does, is the ability to tell if somebody's lying just by reading their body language. And she was so good at it that they had her teach and instruct cops and other officers of law this particular set of skills. The thing that got her out of that vocation was when she realized she had a lot of politicians coming to her wanting to learn how to lie better.
Oh.
And that's when she started to see kind of the ethical lines start to deteriorate a little bit. And she thought, well, what's a great way that I can use this skill without having to worry about the ethics of it? And she thought, oh, what group of people needs to learn how to lie? Actors, because we can always act better. And so I had a chance to learn from her just kind of the science of microexpression. And I really got a chance to put a lot of that into practice during COVID, because before COVID I was taught by magicians one of the best things you can do to make magic amazing is to put it in the spectator's hand. But then COVID happened and it kind of eliminated that. So I had to rethink and retool how I approached that entertainment. So I really started delving more into the mind reading and mentalism, and I got to where I could do magic shows basically over Zoom and like read people's minds from across the country, which was really a blast to do.
That's awesome. So for people who, you know, whether in their day-to-day job, like I've worked as an auditor, I've done a lot of compliance roles, and you have to understand if people are telling you the full story. If, you know, people, maybe they know what they should be saying, but that's not really what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. How do regular people in corporate jobs use that that skill set, or like hone that skill set to try to help them at work?
I think one of the ways that people can really utilize this, because I always tell people who are interested in learning magic that it's a wonderful skill to learn because it gives you a sense of mental security walking into any situation. For example, if I was to teach an actor how to do a card trick, and then they have the confidence to know that they can walk into a room and with a deck of cards in 60 seconds have the confidence to entertain everyone there. How great is it to walk into an audition with that same level of confidence? I think a lot of what I try to teach people is to have that confidence in yourself, because if you know that you're secure, whether it's in your emotional or your mental state, then you're able to handle pretty much anything that comes at you in the workspace, whether it's, you know, something on your day-to-day job or whether it's, God forbid, workplace drama. The more secure you have in yourself, it's going to give you that much more security handling any of those situations that come at you. And I think a lot of what happens with people in the job site is that they get caught up in what everybody else is doing, or they get caught up in everybody else's emotional train.
Right.
And I think if they can learn how to stick to their track, how they can stick to their emotional foundation, that helps them pretty much in any situation. It's like, I always love the analogy of, you know, duck on a pond. Like, you know, you see the duck on the pond and there's not much. It's just floating there, but underneath everything else is churning. And I think if you're confident that you're on the right path, you're doing all the work, and that what everybody else sees is just this level playing field, I think that helps so much in any workplace environment. And it can also be inspiring for others to want to emulate and mimic that. And then they start to bring less drama to work because they look at you and they say, well, this person doesn't have any drama they brings to work, even though, you know, you're going through it yourself, but you're able to do it on your terms, not anybody else's.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to frame it, of saying if you want to understand other people, you have to sort of have your own confidence and your own calm that you present. Because I did a really interesting EQ assessment where I was shown a lot of videos, and mostly they were workplace videos, and it was like, you know, your boss calls you in to tell you that you didn't get the promotion, or you have to talk to one of your employees about the fact that they keep showing up late. And you show these videos and they're actors playing these roles and having a conversation. It's obviously a scripted conversation, but they're expressing emotion, and it's geared sort of to trigger you. And the higher you, like the way to get a higher score is to basically not say like, ooh, this person makes me so mad, I would fire them on the spot, but really understand, like, you know, they ask you things like, what were they thinking? And it's not just like a yes or no. It's like on a scale of 1 to 8, you know, how much was this person anxious?
Yeah.
And a lot of it was really just about how objectively can you view what's happening without getting triggered, without bringing your own context into it, of like, oh, I hate when someone comes down on me like that, or like, you know, it's so maddening when you don't get the promotion.
Yeah.
If you can really view it as a fully objective observer, that was really how this test was measuring your emotional intelligence, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and I think one advantage that being an actor has given me is that I deal with rejection on a daily basis. I do, and you know, a lot of people who try to get into the acting industry, when they first hit that, you know, you didn't get the part, or no, you're not what we're looking for, and all that stuff. A lot of times they internalize that, and I myself, even in my early days, I internalized a lot of it. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not, you know, strong enough, this whole laundry list of how I'm not good enough for this. And it really was the point when I got to my mental game of saying, no, I'm fine where I am, as long as I am doing a good job, doing the work, doing what's asked of me to the best of my ability. All the rest really doesn't matter. And the big thing that I learned is that success is not about the opportunities that come to you. Success is about creating consistency in your routines, so when the opportunities do come, you have a higher chance of actually being able to capitalize on them.
That's great. Because we all face a lot of rejection, whether it's, you know, maybe you're in sales, maybe you're dating.
Oh yeah.
You know, maybe you're submitting claims to your insurance company.
Very true.
Whatever it is, we get told no so frequently.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that mentality of like, be ready for someone to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And already have that practice in place so that you're ready to go.
Absolutely.
And it's not just like, oh, okay, yeah, you said yes to me, I didn't expect that. Now we don't really know what to do with myself.
Yeah. Because that's always the surprise when someone does finally say yes. You're like, I didn't practice for this, you know. But if you have that consistency where, I love this one, I think it was in the Four Agreements, I don't remember who the author is, but I love that book. My favorite one, it was the one that really helped kind of get my head game in place, was when it said, don't take anything personally. And it even emphasized, don't take the compliments personally.
Okay.
And I was like, because we're always taught, you know, go for the affirmation, good job, you know, we thrive on that. It's a dopamine fix, you know, it triggers the synapses. But in this book it was saying, if somebody gives you praise, that's fine. If someone gives you a negative, that's fine. But don't build on that. Because then what it does is it sets you up. If you're always focusing on the negative, you're always going to be a negative. If you're focusing always on positive and you don't get it, that becomes a negative.
Right. The positive becomes your identity.
Exactly.
And then you have to maintain that identity.
Exactly. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's so exhausting. So it's always funny to me whenever I'm at work and people sit there and say, you did a great job, Benny. I'm like, thanks. And I keep going, you know, and that's it. You know, that's my day. And it's so freeing for me because then I'm not bogged down by, oh, I gotta do better tomorrow at work, otherwise I won't get that, you did a great job, you know. I don't look for that. I look for my self-satisfaction of knowing I did a good job.
Right.
And when I get that, I'm set. And if people see that and recognize it, fantastic. That's icing on the cake. If not, we still get cake. You know, just sans icing. It's fine.
Right. I guess cake is still good without icing.
Yeah, cake is great. It's just really sweet bread at that point in time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I make a good coffee cake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's carbs. Who cares? You know.
Carbs are carbs. Yes. Yeah, I've even been making bread and fresh baked bread with nothing on it is so delicious.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Just a little pinch of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're set.
Yeah. One of my college summer jobs was I worked at Einstein Bagels, and when the bagels would come out, it was like so tempting to just grab one, pull all the meat out of it, eat it.
Yep. And just I was making the display one. Don't mind me. Here we go.
Right?
Yeah, it's gonna go in the front. No one will buy it. It'll be fine. It'll be hollow, but it'll be fine.
There you go. But yeah, sometimes people say like, oh, you know, once they work at a food service restaurant type of situation, they like never want to eat the food because they know what goes into it. But that one, I was like, we just baked bagels.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, that's just heaven right there.
Yeah. The only thing that we had a coffee drink that was sort of an iced latte drink, but it was literally just like half cold brew coffee and half half and half.
Oh, jeez.
And then a bunch of sugar.
Yeah.
It was really popular, but like that was the only thing where I was like, this is horrible for me. Like a latte made with half and half.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fun. So yeah, tell us about a couple of your other endeavors.
So, so we know I do acting. We know I do magic.
Yeah.
As a dance instructor, I don't think we've really covered that. And the social media. But yeah, as a dance instructor, that came about in kind of a unique way too. Funny story. I was obsessed as a kid with Fred Astaire. He was my idol. I loved everything about him. I really wanted to be like the next Fred Astaire. I wanted to be like a tap dancer and all that stuff. And so as a teenager, I studied tap dancing, really went through the rigors and the motions of it. And then I want to say 16 or 17, somewhere in there, I ended up getting a staph infection in both of my knees. And I lost the ability to easily walk without pain. I was on a cane for 6 months. It was that painful, and it really kind of set me back. It set me mentally in a very, very low place, because I loved dancing, I loved everything about dancing, and having that taken from me was rough. But I thought, okay, as I started getting better, I was like, okay, how can I get back into dancing? I knew I couldn't go back to tap dancing because it was so hard impact that my knees couldn't take it at the time. So I thought, what's a great way to kind of get back into this? And I thought, well, what's another thing that Fred Astaire was famous for? Waltzing and ballroom dancing. So I was able to, with the help of my mom, I was able to find a dance studio, local dance studio, that they were hiring instructors, and they would give you a month's worth of teaching to basically train you to be an instructor, and at the end of the month, if you did good, you got the job. So I thought, well, that's cheaper than dance classes, so might as well just learn how to teach it. So I did the month. I would have gotten the job, except at the time I didn't have a driver's license, and it was pretty far away, so I couldn't have my mom drive me to the dance studio. But I learned a lot from that, and I always worked and practiced my dancing, and then when I moved out to the Tucson area, I had a chance to work with Fred Astaire Dance Studios. And I learned a lot, not just about dancing, but also about business, because I have no formal education. By the way, anybody who thinks that you have to have a formal education to get anywhere in life, no, just don't say no to a lot of opportunities, and you'll get somewhere. Not sure where, but you'll get somewhere with it.
On this podcast.
Yeah, hey, exactly. But yeah, I got a chance to work with Fred Astaire for almost a year, and I learned a lot. The reason why I didn't continue with Fred Astaire was not because they're a bad company, but because a lot of dance studios really push people to the competitive world of dancing. And for me, dancing was more of a holistic. I always had kind of that, let's heal with this approach. And one of my favorite students that I had for all too brief time, she was a lovely lady who decided to come into the dance studio, and at 96 years old, she decided she wanted to learn how to dance.
I love that.
She had been with the studio for a few months before I had hired on with them, and the instructors didn't always know what to do with her, because there wasn't a lot she could do because of, her age and physicality. So once they trained me up and got me, comfortable, they said, well, you know what, Benny, you're doing a great job. Let's pass her over to you, and you can just work with her and do your thing. And I'm like, okay. So I saw what they were doing with her, and I realized, well, we could do a lot more. Because most of it was just her sitting in a chair, just tapping algorithms. I was like, we can go further with this. So I started there, but then I was like, let's get the feet moving, let's do this. And then I got to the point where she could stand and walk in short distances. I was like, let's create a fun little checkpoint system. So what I did, and I would do this especially if the day, like the studio was empty and it was just me and her, and I'd have some of the other instructors help too, we'd set out chairs and we just checkpoint it. We'd walk from one side, and we'd do this all to music. So we'd rumba our way over to one chair, sit down, rest and relax, rumba our way to the next chair, sit down, rest and relax. And that was it. It got to 2 chairs and stuff, but by the time we got done, I'd been able to build enough endurance with her that I was able to, with just a couple of chairs out there, we made laps all the way around the dance studio. And I remember as we were doing a full lap, I remember looking at her and saying, did you ever think that when you walked in here that you'd be doing laps around this dance studio? And she looked at me and said, I thought it was just a dream.
Oh.
And even after I left Fred Astaire Dance Studios, I told the lady's daughter who was helping to take care of her, I said, look, anytime, even though I won't be here, anytime you need me to come over and help, I'm happy to do that. And sure enough, I was there with her pretty much until the end.
I love that.
And it also was the thing that kind of gave me the courage, because yes, I gave her the ability to dance, but she gave me the courage to say, I can make a business out of this. And then COVID happened, and I realized that all the studios were shut down, but I was still able to teach people how to dance, because I came up with a way of doing it from 6 feet distance, teaching people how to ballroom dance together. Right. And it just kept growing and growing from there. And my official dance company name is the Benefits of Dance. Funny story with that. One of my other dance clients actually came up with the name because we were talking, and she's like, wow, I feel so much better. I said, yeah, and that's the benefits of dance. And she looked at me and said, you mean the benefits of dance? And I said to her, if I ever get an LLC, that's what I'm calling it. And I kept my promise. So
that's amazing.
Shout out to the former students there.
There you go. So yeah, you do so many things.
I do. I work very hard not to have a real job.
That's awesome. I also pitched to you a future in pageant coaching, which I still think you would be amazing at.
That would be fun. I mean, I don't know when or if it'll happen, but I am definitely open to it because I do love fashion. I love teaching people how to just walk and present themselves with confidence. I think it could be a lot of fun.
It would be really fun. I think that's also super lucrative.
Yeah, you can make some pretty good money off of it. Yeah. So we'll see.
There you go. Okay, so how would people find you if they wanted to book you for a magic show or a corporate event?
So if you want to book me for a magician role, you can go onto the SAM website. That's Society of American Magicians, Tucson. So it's, I believe, magicintucson.com, and you can find my magician's webpage over there. You can also look me up directly on Facebook at Benny James. You can also find me at BJ Break Reality. I love writing that out because people say, I didn't know you were a realtor. I'm like, that's reality, not realty. They're like, oh. Or you can just send us a message through our TikTok, which is That Geek Family. That's another great way to get in contact with me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
This has been awesome, and I didn't know all of the stories, so it was cool for me. And I really appreciate you being here.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, anytime. Okay.